Let me show you this information that our friends from Borderland Beat, specifically my girl Harst, who's doing a great job on Borderland Beat and following up on the Chapitos, they got an exclusive, some exclusive information that I want to read out to you from their website that are going to be watching on screen pretty soon. There you go. Iván Archibaldo Guzmán Salazar. So the following is basically a profile from someone really close to Iván Archibaldo Guzmán. Let me make a parenthesis right here and tell you something. I know exactly who is giving out this information. I know because I have confirmed with some of these people that are sending out this information. So I'm 110% sure where this info is coming. So this is someone really close to Iván Archibaldo and the rest of Los Chapitos. They know everything about him. This means they're closing on them. They're really closing on them. And they're not going to stop. They're going to keep sharing this sort of information. But let me just go straight to it, guys, on the second news of this daily newscast. The son of Joaquín Archibaldo Guzmán Loera, alias El Chapo, and Maria Alejandrina Salazar Hernandez. He was born on August 15, 1983. His aliases are Chapito, Tocayo, Archie, Arqui, Batman, Rengo, Luis, King of Cocaine, Rey de la Cocaína. This is a funny nickname, and then Rey del Fentanilo, King of Fentanyl. Iván Archibaldo has been trying to detach from this nickname, and this person that is sharing this information is trying to make fun of him for calling or trying to call himself the Rey de la Cocaína, the King of Cocaine. He hates that people like me or Borderland Beat or any other journalists keep calling him Rey de la Cocaína. But that's the nickname, allegedly, he wanted for himself for a while. Before keep reading, let me just have a sip of this beer to keep going. I know it's early, but who gives a shit? The beginning of Iván's criminal story. On January 19, 2001, Chapo escaped from the Puente Grande prison. After the prison doors were opened and he was escorted outside the facility, he made a call to his eldest son, Cesar. But Cesar did not pick up his call. Chapo then opted to call Iván, who did pick up, and he, surprisingly, received his father's instructions. These letters says, surprisingly, because the word is Iván and the rest of the Chapitos, they never have listened to their dad, El Chapo Guzmán. Iván picked up Chapo and left him in the parking lot. His father said goodbye and informed him that they will not hear from him for a few months, but not to worry, and to tell the family that everything will be fine. In December 2003, Iván was involved in a deadly automobile accident while leaving the Oliria nightclub in Culiacán, Sinaloa, which killed the passenger he was driving with. Iván was street racing at the time in his beige-colored BMW M3 when all of a sudden he hit the back of a pickup with wooden panels and had a busted taillight on the Jorge Almada Bridge. Very well-known bridge, very well-known incident in Culiacán. During the crash, Iván got pinned inside his vehicle. After EMTs removed him from his car, he was taken by plane to Guadalajara for medical attention. This is what caused his chronic medical condition, which causes him to walk a little lame. In April 2004, Iván murdered a Canadian woman named Kristen Page Dale and a Mexican man named Cesar Augusto Pulido Mendoza while they were leaving a nightclub called Bali Bar in Zapopan, Jalisco. This double homicide remains unresolved because Chapo, with his power and influence, managed to get the case against Iván dismissed. Chapo paid for people like nurses and doctors to provide false testimony, saying that Iván was in a wheelchair and able to walk and in another part of the country when it happened. So Iván was never prosecuted. Now, this was news back in the time because, of course, she was a Canadian. This dragged a lot of attention from everywhere. Iván was signaled. He was imprisoned but eventually left out. But he did some prison time. Hopefully someday he will be made to pay for this crime because they were innocent young people who died purely because Christians rejected Ivan's attempted romantic advances. From the time, sources told me that what really happened is that Ivan was trying to hit on Kristen and that these other dudes step up. They probably shared some ugly words. Then Kristen and this other dude left amongst the other friends. And while they were driving on the highway, another SUV pulled up on the side and started shooting, killing her and this other Mexican national. In February 2005, a municipal police officer from Zapopan arrested Ivan after encountering 6 criminals who hours before had executed 3 men in Guadalajara on orders of Ivan. Ivan was sent to prison for 3 years. Over those years, Jose Luis Santiago Vasconcelos, the former head of the Ciedo, psychologically tormented Ivan, trying to make his life as difficult as possible while he was in prison. Ivan used to cry himself to sleep every night out of an all-consuming fear of being murdered. In April 2008, Ivan was released from prison. This was in part due to his lawyer buying up the judge who was assigned to the case, but more so due to Chapo making an agreement with the government for the release of his son. After being released, Ivan traveled to Guadalajara, and on the next day he traveled to Culiacan, where he was welcomed home with open arms. When he arrived in Culiacan, a war had just broken out between the Sinaloa cartel and the Beltran Leiva cartel. Ivan later learned that his father, Chapo, had gotten him released from prison by agreeing to turn in El Mochomo to federal authorities. Just a few months before Ivan was released from prison, Mochomo was arrested. And now the fallout from Chapo's trade had begun and violence overtook over the city. Being around that many guns made Ivan uneasy. He was afraid that the government would take notice of their gun cache and arrest them for firearm possession, sending him back to prison. Little did anyone know, the very guns Ivan feared will become his favorite tool for meting out death and destruction for so many. Ivan joined the Sinaloa cartel prior to being sent to prison, and he continued his criminal activities even while he was in jail. Chapo regularly entrusted a certain amount of product to Ivan and Ivan's brother, Jesus Alfredo. Chapo continued doing this during Ivan's jail time, except he gave Ivan's share to Jesus Alfredo, who divided it for them. Ivan began working under the tutelage of Manuel Fernandez Valencia, known as La Puerca and El Animal, who helped him smuggle cocaine from Mexico to the US, Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. Ivan began coordinating shipments of all kinds of narcotics, distributing them to different parts of the United States. Then there is a psychological profile, that it's probably not a psychological profile. Then his occupation, a lot of details there. This is interesting. Ivan has a group of Semar soldiers on his payroll. Semar is the Mexican Marines on his payroll who protect him and act directly on his orders. The Marines group patrols the Sinaloa towns of Cozalá and La Cruz de Elota. As of the writing of this story, Ivan's personal liaison with the Semar, with the Marine group, is Leobardo Garcia Corrales from Potrerillos. He is wanted by the U.S. government, and a $4 million USD reward is being offered. Very recently, the U.S. unsealed an indictment against this Leobardo dude. Ivan protects his men embedded within the government at the federal, state, and municipal level, and in the military, through blackmailing various corrupt officials with images and videos he took of them, which he keeps on file. He began collecting these videos and images after hearing that Servando Gomez Martinez, alias La Tuta, from the Knights Templar, will secretly recall all the politicians he met with. I like to say the following to all politicians and law enforcement agencies that work with Ivan. Sever that relationship now and start actually doing your job, because we have a list of names of Ivan collaborators as well as the evidence to prove your corruption, and we are going to reveal it all. Governors, senators, deputies, municipal presidents, members of the Navy, members of the Army, members of the Attorney General's office, and police commanders. It doesn't stop here. I've heard from really good sources. Again, these are absolutely 100% corroborated sources with knowledge. Ivan holds photo or video of AMLO's family meeting with them. You didn't hear from me? That's the word out there. Then there's a list of Ivan crimes and a list of activities that he's involved with, and then a list of murders he was involved in. A lot of details, but then we have something more. Let me see if these guys, well, Ivan the thief, a lot of like stuff he stole from people, but if Borderline B got the same information I did, there are very specific locations of Ivan's whereabouts. And let me see, Ivan properties. You have all these properties in Culiacan for the most part, and Sinaloa and Jalisco. There is one that is really interesting. Let me see if this was shared with our friends of Borderline Beat and our girl Hearts. No, it wasn't shared with them. Let me show you something. Here it is. Allegedly, with these sources, this is where Ivan Archibaldo is currently hiding. Maturipa, Badiraguato, Sinaloa. If this is true, I don't know. He probably moved over, but this man is set to. This man, when I refer to this man, I'm talking about Ivan. He's set to have become more and more paranoid. Allegedly, he doesn't sleep between 6 in the morning and 11 p.m. No, between 11 p.m. and 6 in the morning, because he fears that the authorities could get to him while he's asleep. So he sleeps after 6, and also every single person he receives on his home, he asks them to wrap their phones on foil, because he fears that they're going to be recording locations and else. So interesting stuff, people. I can't read further because I have not confirmed any other information about the Chapitos and all the info that I'm getting. But I promise you that I'm going to get you some really good stuff pretty much soon.